Hey guys, today I want to talk about my outing to the Powerhouse Museum to see the Star Wars Identities exhibition. I went earlier in the month and it just didn't occur to me to make a video blog about it, so here we go. It was a really good exhibition and I enjoyed it, but I almost didn't go. And the reason is because I don't remember exactly when the exhibition came to Sydney. It's sort of been around the place, like it's been to London and wherever, but it's in Sydney right now. And yeah, when it landed here, I think it was like the summer holidays. And I was like, well, I like Star Wars, but, you know, summer holidays means there's going to be lots of kids around, and I don't really like crowds of people, so, you know, maybe I don't want to go to this. But my friend invited me, and he's like, you realize the exhibition goes for like 6 months, there's heaps of time. And I was like, oh, I wasn't paying attention. So, yeah, we organized to go after school went back and after all the uni kids went back as well. And yeah, we picked a Friday earlier this month. A Friday just because, like, you know, during the week is when you're less likely to get people. You know, weekends would probably still be really busy. And yeah, so I think we went in around 10:30 or 11, which means we skipped peak hour traffic because I don't like that. Yeah, we went to the exhibition and then afterwards went to Nando's to spend one of my coupons, because, you know, how can I not? I'm like, most of my friends know now that if we're going out, chances are we're gonna end up at Nando's unless there's some other plan. So, yeah. But anyway, the exhibition. So, Star Wars Identities exhibition. Yes, it's about Star Wars, but it's also about identity. And you know, how can I say no? I mean, apart from the crowds problem, once we get rid of that, I'm like, I'm in. Because Star Wars has that whole dark versus light kind of temptation by the dark side sort of thing. So it's very me. I'm still really into that sort of duality topic. And then it has to do with identity, so like psychology and all that. So in terms of the Star Wars side of things, strictly Star Wars type stuff, they're showing you items from the first 6 movies, so it's none of the later stuff. If you didn't like the later movies, it doesn't have that, so yay for those of you who worry about that sort of thing. So yeah, episodes 1 to 6. Yeah, and they have like, I mean, I'm not a Star Wars fanatic, but to me it looked like they had just about everything. I was like, I don't even know what that character is or where it's from, you know? And yeah, we spent how many hours? We spent maybe 2.5 hours, possibly more, because I'm one of those people who likes to read every single thing. And yeah, there was a lot of information. There's a lot of stuff that I didn't know about. So yeah, pretty cool. I didn't take photos of all that stuff, so if you want to see that, I mean, you can look at other people's blogs. Even if they went to like the London version of the event, it's the same basic thing. It's just like they've set it up in a different space. So wherever you see it, if it comes to your neighborhood, you'll get the same basic experience that I did. Probably in your language though. I think there's 2 languages. I don't know what the other language was for the Sydney edition, but you know, obviously English is one of them. Might have been French, I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, first 6 Star Wars, lots of information, but for me, I mean, I've been to Star Wars exhibitions before, actually also at the Powerhouse Museum. Like, there was one where you could like do the Force kind of thing and things are supposed to move, and I don't know how it worked, but you know, I guess sensors when you're standing there going, woo! But yeah, no, the thing that really made this Star Wars exhibition stand out for me is the identities and psychology side of things. Because, I mean, I guess, like, they're weaving in the educational thing, and when an exhibition, like, the Powerhouse Museum is about science, and they do design stuff as well, but I mostly see it as science, whereas something like I think, is it the Australian Museum on the other side of the city? That's more like natural history kind of stuff. So Powerhouse science and whatever, psychology fit in really well with their thing. And so the way they get you to learn about the psychology, they mix it up with Star Wars, you know, like the Star Wars backstories of the characters and so on. But the main thing that they're doing is like they get you involved. So when you go to the exhibition, they give you a headset thing so that, you know, you don't bother people while you're listening to stuff. There's actually a lot of stuff to listen to on this little headpiece, and it was actually really comfortable. I was so surprised. But no, the main thing is they give you this wristband, and you can go around the exhibition, and there's 10 stations. where you tap your wristband against these things to make choices about a character that you're building for yourself. So that was really fun, and at each of these 10 stations, they also have a video presentation that tells you like what part of your personality they're looking at, and you know, it gives you the information, but with Star Wars backgrounds, they're like, so this character, blah, 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 blah. And one of the cool things they did is they did a lot of comparisons of Luke Skywalker versus Anakin Skywalker, because they have a lot of parallels in their backstory, but there are enough things that are different that they end up completely different in terms of their fates. And yeah, that was pretty cool, especially because you've got light side, dark side kind of stuff there. So, ramble. My character, if I can, I'll try and edit in a picture, but I don't really want to use my fancy software, so hopefully it'll be there. Otherwise, I'll post it somewhere and check in the comments for where that picture is. But yeah, my character, I used my name, Mariko. I don't know how to pronounce my name still, but yeah, let's just go with Mariko for the moment. I ended up being a female Zabrak. I don't really know much about alien races in Star Wars, like names and stuff, so I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Female Zabrak, and then they gave me this story. So I was raised on the lava planet Mustafar, where members of my community made their living in lava mining. On holidays, my best friend and I would traditionally go rock hopping through the lava fields. My parents required discipline from me and had little warmth to give, but I suppose I did inherit my strong set of intellectual abilities from them. Later on, I spent some time with the one and only Darth Sidious, whose guidance left me with knowledge I still use every day in my job as a musician. That's really the funniest part. I remember this one time when I was captured by a crime lord and chained to his belly. I didn't let this affect me too much, though. Instead, I used my chains to throttle the crime lord to death and escaped. People often tell me I'm a generally organized and prepared person. I also tend to be adventurous and curious. But the most important thing to me is power. It's pretty obvious to me that one should follow the leader or get out of the way. The Force is very strong with me, so I wasn't surprised when the Emperor tracked me down. When he offered me limitless power in exchange for my allegiance, I leapt at the chance and turned eagerly to the dark side. So it's a pretty funny story. I mean, what even? But very early on, my descent into the dark side was quite evident. So there's a bunch of things that get you to choose. I think the first thing was species. Sorry, I've written some stuff down because I'll totally forget. So the first thing they choose is species. And when you go to the info screen, like, you know, you have to wait for these things on a loop, but we waited for the loop to start up and then listening to the thing, and it's telling you all about like how your species affects you and blah, blah, and how like species in Star Wars might be important. But they didn't really tell you what, like there was no advice on what species to choose. So I did that purely based on looks, and I'm like, you know, hey, little horns and stuff, let's go for that one. With genes, I think that had to do with like skin color and stuff like that, and I was just like, none of these skin colors, like because I'm an alien, the skin colors didn't make sense, so I just chose one that looked kind of good for that as well. Parents, that was about parenting style, and there were only 4 options, but they had it on this scale. You probably have to go to the exhibition to see the exact scale because I don't remember, but you know, that one I used a bit more of my upbringing. I mean, my parents, they chilled out a lot more now, but when I was younger, it was more like, you know, work hard and a bit more strict. And, you know, with having a disabled brother, he kind of takes a lot of attention. So that's how I ended up with that for my parenting styles kind of thing, you know. Yeah, and I put a lot of pressure on myself as well. So some of that might have been my own perception rather than my parents actually parenting in that style. Then there was culture. Culture, I don't remember what that was, but that might have been to do with like the lava planet. Because yeah, they made us choose a planet, and then it was like, you choose like what your hobby is or something, like what you did when you were a kid. And I chose the lava planet because I was like, it looks cool as well. It was a little bit hard to know which planets you should choose either. So yeah, some of these things, especially because they're like aliens and it's like the Star Wars universe, I may have not made the most sensible choices. But yes, lava planet, it's kind of hard for me not to. But there are a whole bunch of ones that you can choose from. Yeah, so that's how I ended up like with members of my community making their living in lava mining, and then me going rock hopping through the lava fields. Okay, culture, mentors. Oh, the mentors one. I think that one was pretty funny. So I actually wrote this one down. That you come up to this, and I'll try and edit in the picture here as well. I don't know. Let's see how that goes. But yeah, so they ask you what kind of abilities do you want to develop, and there's 3 options: physical, spiritual, and intellectual. And like I probably want to develop some physical skills, but if I'm being honest with myself, I'm a little bit lazy. I realize for health I should do it, probably for my singing I should do it, but I don't know. And then I look at spiritual and I'm like, I am not spiritual, fuck that. And then I look at intellectual, and intellectual is the thing that I spend most time on, you know. I look up stuff like crazy, I think about things too much, and I find that stuff interesting, more interesting than physical stuff. So I went for the intellectual route, and then it asks you whether or not you're a pre-planner or impulsive. I have made some impulsive decisions in my life, but I'm really definitely more of a pre-planner. I probably plan things too much, you know. I can be a little bit over-organized and get stressed about things if it's not really, you know, especially if I'm working with people who aren't organized. So yeah, I'm a pre-planner. And then they give you 2 options about who you want to have as your mentor. And you know, I could have gone with Padme Amidala. Hers is stick to your principles and you'll have no regrets, but yeah, then there's Darth Sidious, and he's saying good and evil are only points of view. And the thing is, like, this is happening now when I've just been through that whole binge of, like, more right-wing kind of propaganda, trying to understand the more far-right perspective, and then going back and looking at some of the far-left perspective, and then coming back and looking at all the in-betweens and so on, and then, you know, the whole good and evil are only points of view is kind of resonated with me pretty heavily, you know. I'm into the whole nuance and perspective and, like, echo chambers and so on, because if you look at people on the far extremes of politics, they think the other side is out to get them and the most horrible people and whatever, like. So I was just like, how can I not choose him? It's so funny that that came up right when I've been through this whole thing. So yeah, I went with Darth Sidious. I didn't mean to be on the dark side on purpose. It's just like things keep happening. They didn't give me information about my species or my planet really to make a proper choice. So those both ended up looking evil. And then this one comes up and I'm just like, how can I not choose this? So, yeah, that's how that happened. Yeah, and then what next? Friends. So with friends, I only went with my one friend, so we both put our wristbands on the table. There's this table and it connects you up, and yeah, so if you look at my picture of my character, you'll see his character in the background, and I also appeared in the background of his. And the really funny thing is that he also ended up choosing the dark side, but if you look at his story is so much more positive. It's like, you know, hard work and blah, 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 and looking after people. So I'm kind of like, if the Star Wars backstory algorithm was smarter, what would have happened is his story should say, like, you know, despite his positive trajectory in life, he had this really disturbed friend, which is me, dragging him into the dark side kind of thing. It was just like, it's kind of funny, but yeah, it's not really an important thing to the development of the character. It just affects the picture at the end, I reckon, because yeah, you know, his story didn't really reference anything from my story. Mine didn't reference anything from his. So yeah, they just say like, on holidays, my best friend and I, and you assume it's that person that you connected with, but we were supposed to have grown up on different planets, so it kind of doesn't work. Yeah, okay. And then events. Oh, that's the thing where I was captured by the crime lord. The crime lord refers to, oh shit, what's his name? Giant slug dude. Just had a complete mental blank, which is so embarrassing. Oh my god. But, you know, I know what his face looks like, and I've just completely blanked out on his name. But you know who I'm talking about, and the whole Princess Leia strangling him to death with the chains thing. That's basically what it was. It did give you some other options. So actually with that table, you put your your wristband on the table and it does this randomization thing and then it stops. And yeah, mine stopped on that as my life event. So this is not actually to do with my personality. This is just a random event. But then after that, you can choose 3 different options. And I think one of the options was like, you know, you work really hard and become like a really good slave, and then you get an increase in your like living conditions or something. And then there was another option, I forget what it was, but I'm just like, fuck it, no, I'm gonna kill this bitch. So yeah, that's what that was about. Kind of hilarious the way that they've written it though. Then occupation. So they give you a list of occupations, and the 2 that I was sort of torn between was Jedi and musician. But the Jedi thing, it seems a little bit too spiritual and all that kind of stuff for me. So I was like, well, I actually am trying to do music in my life, so let's go with musician. But that, of course, led to that funny thing where like Darth Sidious's guidance left me with knowledge I still use every day in my job as a musician. I'm not sure how that works. You know, I mean, I guess I growl and freak the shit out of people. Does that count? Does that count? I don't freaking know. You know, like what? So it's just really kind of a bizarre thing to put in there. Anyway, so you could have chosen any occupation, and if you had Darth Sidious as your mentor, it would have said some shit like that. It's like, yeah. The costume, though, on the picture was pretty good for the musician. Then what else? Personality. So I think, which one is that? Oh, personality. This one was really cool. If you are going to this exhibition and you get up to the personality one, they actually do the Big 5 test. I didn't print out. I'll have a look. I'll go back and print out my Big 5 thing, because I forgot to take photos of this and I had to sort of reconstruct it by memory. But yeah, they go through the Big 5 characteristics. I'll do this at the end of the video. And this is actually legitimate, the current most accepted personality test in psychology. And yeah, I mean, it was a really simple test that you do because, you know, it's a Star Wars exhibition, but it seemed relatively accurate and yeah, kind of interesting. So I think that's where they're referring to, I'm generally organized and prepared. I also tend to be adventurous and curious, which to me kind of seems like those things might be a little bit opposites. Like, you know, if you're organized and prepared, but also adventurous and curious, they just seem like they're kind of on the opposite spectrums. But hey, whatever, I am all about weird extremes. I struggle to fit into one side or the other, so hey, sure, whatever. But if you do that test, right, take a photo of your results, because they won't tell you that again. So yeah, just a tip. Go into the Star Wars Identities exhibition, take a photo of your personality test. Okay. Yeah, and then the last thing is values. And I found that one really difficult, and that's why I ended up saying that the most important thing to me is power. That was actually my friend's influence. He was like, wouldn't you choose that one? And I sort of ummed and ahed about it and looked at some of the other things, and I was like, how can I choose one out of all these things? There's no single thing that goes over the top. And he's like, that one. And I'm like, yeah, let's go for power! Let's go for power! Ho, 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 ho. Does any of you watch Home Improvement where they're like, more power? Ho, 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 ho. Anytime my family goes to Bunnings on the weekend now, and I'm like, yeah, so you're going to Bunnings, guys? Ho, 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 ho. Yeah, Home Improvement, Tim the Tool Man. Did you guys not watch that in the 90s? It's kind of a weird, insane, but funny show. Yeah, anyway. So, species, genes, parents, culture, mentors, friends, events, occupation, personality, values. I really enjoyed the whole psychology side of it. A lot of it I already know because I am the kind of person who researches this stuff and gets a little bit obsessive. So it's kind of like a revision for me because I haven't looked into it for a long time. But yeah, most of that I'm kind of aware, especially like, I think if you watch like Jordan Peterson, for example, he sometimes talks about the big 5 and like openness and neuroticism and blah, blah, blah. Those are big 5 traits, so that's where that's coming from. Yeah. So the psychology side, you might actually learn something, and it's also fun to construct your own character. And then when you come out, they put your characters up on these big screens. Like you tap your thing to get it emailed to you on the small screen, and then you can tap it on the big screen and see like you up on the big thing with like your mentors in the background and all that kind of stuff. But then you go through to the shop, and the shop was interesting because they have some good merch. But the first thing when I went in that I saw was the Han Solo carbonite backpack. I will try and edit in a picture of that as well, because it was just, it's so ugly, it's so weird. I don't know who would buy this, and it's like, was it 50 or 60 bucks? It's just Han Solo in carbonite as a backpack, but like squishy, so it's all done really weird, and I'm just like, no, what the hell? But yeah, no, they had a lot of stuff. I was really good and didn't buy a t-shirt because I have a lot of t-shirts that I don't wear. And then also with like Punk Rave Australia sending me clothes, I'm kind of like, maybe I shouldn't buy so many clothes right now. So yeah, I was really good and didn't buy a t-shirt, and I didn't buy any knickknacks, but I did buy a couple of books, and I will show you them now. Here's the Powerhouse Museum bag. Now, it does say MAAS, Museum of Museum of, I forget what that stands for. Museum of Applied Arts and Sciences. I do not like this rebranding of the name. The Powerhouse Museum was so much cooler, like, you know, when I was a kid and all that I will always call it the Powerhouse Museum. And I think if you type in Powerhouse Museum, it'll still come up, but whatever. So, yeah, the bag. And then these are the two books that I got. The Jedi Path and Book of Sith. Because of course, why wouldn't I get both? I cannot help myself, can I? You know, I have to have that sort of split personality. Which side am I on? I don't really know. I probably lean this way. I mean this. I was leaning towards that book, but it just made the Jedi look more, didn't it? No, I probably lean more towards this because, like, fun. But I'm also interested in this because, like, sometimes I try to be nice. I try, I swear. Anyway, so now I've got to decide which book I'm going to read, because I have this goal where I'm going to try and read one book a season, and it's now autumn, and so I'm like, which book? I'll probably, if I can actually sit down to read, I read pretty fast, but because I don't read so much these days, it takes me ages. I should do a review at some point of The Art of War, because I did finish that last season, but no, these are the ones I'm looking at now. And I'm sort of like, which one should I choose? And I thought about, you know, putting out a poll so that you guys could vote on what I want to read, but, you know, I asked one of my friends, and she straight away goes, like, do the Sith! And I'm like, you know what? Fuck you, I'm going to do the opposite of whatever you say. So, I'm going to start with the Jedi Path. And actually, no, my reason isn't to spite my friend. It's because I'm going to look at, like, what the good guys say, and then I'm going to fall to the dark side and go this way. So that's what, you know. And I also kind of feel like, because I'm actually a little bit more attracted to this sort of thing, if I start with this and then read the Jedi stuff, it's a bit like of an anticlimax. So I'm going to start with the stuff that, like, you know, the way that we should be for, like, good and stuff. But, you know, if you think about the Jedi, they were a pretty corrupt organization, and, you know, why don't you be, like, you know, let yourself be angry sometimes, and, yeah, stuff like that. Anyway, so that's sort of my review of, well, or my recount of my outing to the Sydney edition of Star Wars Identities exhibition. It was actually really good, and thank you to my friend for inviting me out, because I'm so lazy I wouldn't have gone otherwise. Yeah, alright, that's all I've got for today, and I will get back to sitting on my bum. No, I've got to try and do a music thing. I've sort of accepted a little, like, one-off collab thing, so I've got to try and work out what way to sing it is best, and we'll see how that goes. I don't know if my voice is the right fit, but I will send the guy a few different versions if I can get around to recording it tomorrow. Cross fingers that the place is quiet and the neighbors don't start up their leaf blower, and yeah, stuff like that. Anyway, I'm gonna go, and I will see you whenever I make the next video, which might actually be a rant about musicians, as I mentioned in my previous video. But yeah, we'll see. I might get distracted by something else, who knows. Alright, ciao for now, guys. Wait! I almost forgot! I was gonna tell you my big five. Stay tuned, hang on, I'll roll the music thing, and when I come back, let's look at my big five summary that I wrote down. Alright, I'll see you in like maybe 10 seconds or so.
I've grown tired of your games, you manipulate. I deny your control.
Alright, and we're back. So, because I didn't take a picture of my little, like, score screen, I actually had to look up online, because, yeah, I found a few photos that other people took that helped me work out, like, what the different things said. Some of it, I couldn't get the exact wording on it, but I've kind of, like, written my own little summary and what I remember and some thoughts. So I didn't read this before printing it out, but let's see what I wrote, because I posted this up on Facebook under like my photos of the thing. Okay, so Star Wars Big Five. The traits of the Big Five, by the way, are openness, extroversion, agreeableness, conscientiousness, and neuroticism. That's the order that they use. Some people put it in a different order, but it doesn't matter, it's all the same thing. Okay, so openness. I'm surprisingly high in openness, and given I tend to be surprisingly high in openness, given I tend to be risk averse, but the relevant questions were tricky because I'm pretty curious and I do tend to be more interested in things that are unfamiliar to me and or outside my natural abilities. For example, I was good at maths in school, but instead I've become an artist and musician, a performer, despite being incredibly shy when I was younger. Yeah, so openness. Yeah, that's sort of like about willingness to experience new things. And yeah, I do tend to be very risk averse. Like, for example, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do drugs, I don't go sleeping around. What are other risky things people do? I don't even know, because I mostly stay at home and just whatever. But, you know, I also tried to plan my life to follow more of a normal life plan, and that didn't work out. So I guess, like, the way my brain is built, I'm just not suited to that kind of overly stable life. So, yeah, and I do tend to be interested in things that I'm not so good at. So, like, I was really good at maths in school. I was, like, the top of the maths class kind of thing, and that was, like, the highest level of maths that they had. But I enjoyed drama so much more. I was so shy, so freaking shy, to the point that, like, for HSC drama, you can do a performance, but you could also do reviews of drama. And my drama teacher, before I dropped the subject, my drama teacher was like, you should really do reviews. And this is before I knew that I was any good at writing, but he knew, because like the HSC English is just ridiculous, or it was back when I did it, and I didn't know I was any good at writing until I went to uni and got my first distinction. It was just like, what? But yeah, no, I actually did well in drama writing, so he's like, you should do this, and I quit instead because I was just like, I suck too much, and you know, I should try and get a good mark, I guess, for my HSC. I might have actually done all right, but yeah, no, that's a tangent. I chose drama partly because, like, maybe I'll talk about that another time, but one of the things is, like, whenever I did study drama, it was really interesting. Like, I think, well, it's not Shinesky, it's that other there's some Russian guy starting with S, and his method of acting, and then there's other methods of acting, and I found all that theory behind acting really interesting, which is completely different to maths. Like, maths I kind of just absorbed, whereas drama, like, you actually had to think about it, and it was like, it's not just people getting up on stage and acting, there's actually some theory to how you do this stuff. I mean, if you're a natural actor, sure, but yeah, and also, like, it was terrifying getting on stage. This is before I even started YouTube. I mean, YouTube has kind of helped me come out of my shell, but I was freaking terrified of any kind of speaking like that, and I was just like, no. So, but I just found that it's interesting, and like music as well, so interesting. It's difficult for me, it doesn't come naturally for me, but it's now the main thing that I want to be doing, you know. Anyway, openness. This is going to turn into a longer rant than I thought. Yeah, okay, so extroversion, the next one. That was my lowest trait, 2 out of 5, which is kind of unsurprising. As I was just saying, I'm more socially comfortable than I used to be, but I still enjoy a lot of me time, and it may look like I'm energetic on screen these days, but yeah, like, I'm still just talking to the camera first, and then I can imagine people watching it later, you know, like, it's kind of, it's a level of separation. And then, well, I do get on stage, but I get really nervous about getting on stage still to this day. I like, when I was doing those solo performances for my my EP, I had to go to the bathroom like 3 times before I got up on stage because I was just so damn nervous. And then that first song, I mean, probably is good that I chose an energetic first song most of the time, because that gets you going with the adrenaline, and then you stop feeling as much of the nervousness, you stop shaking so much, and you can get on with things and do some of the slower songs without looking like a leaf. So yeah, extroversion. I'm good at seeming more extroverted, but I'm still a very introverted kind of person, so I kind of agree with that. 2 out of 5 seems pretty accurate. I'm better than I used to be, so 1 out of 5 would be too much the other way, but too introverted. But yeah, 2 out of 5 extroversion. Okay, I scored moderately high in agreeableness, so I'm guessing that's 4 out of 5. I suspect because while I'm fairly social, I do still prefer to get fairly asocial. Sorry, I suspect because while I am fairly asocial, I do still prefer to get along with others rather than cause trouble. And while I see myself as a rather selfish person, I guess I do tend to underestimate my willingness to help people so long as it doesn't tire me out. And this is an interesting thing, like, if you look at my Instagram, some of my recent photos, I've edited out the background and put in my own background, and I actually had a Facebook friend, saying, like, how did you do that? And I was like, I used Photoshop and I did this, and, like, here's the original so you can compare and all that. And, yeah, she was actually surprised how willing I was to help. And when she actually said that, she's like, oh, it's so good that you're, happy to help people and blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, actually, I kind of am, I tend to think that I'm not, but when people ask for help, I'm really like, yeah, I'll help, as long as I'm not tired. If I'm tired and if the person is being annoying, then I do get a bit more resistant to it, but that's kind of just natural because I'm not 100% healthy as an individual. I don't have the energy to deal with everyone. But, when it's just like someone asking casually, hey, that's really cool, how did you do that? I'm like, here's how. I think when I was younger, like, there's some things that happened where I was a bit more protective of my ideas and, like, how I did things because of an incident at school with, so something unfair happened to me. I probably made a bit of a big deal out of it, but that was a long time ago, and I've sort of got more perspective of life. So, these days I'm not so worried about that kind of stuff. But there's some things I'll keep to myself, some of my secrets. But in terms of, like, more general things that people could learn on the internet anyway, it can be hard to find things on the internet, though. And then there are some things that I figured out for myself that I will share. I don't know, I'm getting a little bit vague because as I'm talking, I'm having memories of things where I'm like, that's something I kept to myself, and no one knows that. But on the other hand, if I had shared it, it probably wouldn't make much difference anyway, because by keeping it to myself, I haven't achieved anything. Anyway, that's... wow, my brain going on tangents. Anyway, so, I'm not... agreeableness. I don't get along with everyone. If you piss me off, I might not snap at you at first. Do you know what I mean? I'll try and keep it to myself. But if you really piss me off, I might not be so agreeable, but I'm pretty good at not being a bitch. I can be a bitch sometimes, but I'm pretty good at not doing that. And I prefer not to be in conflict with people, if I can. Anyway, next one, scored high in conscientiousness because I plan a lot. And I put a lot of effort into organizing things. Now, I don't plan my YouTube videos that well, unless it's like one of those highly edited ones, but that's a different thing, because this is my hobby, getting things off my... I put a lot of effort into organizing things. I get pretty frustrated when I have to work with disorganized people. Some of this has to do with the music rant I want to go on. And also, like, some of the workplaces I've been in, you can try to tell people that's not how you should do it, but they'll do it anyway, and it's like, Arr! And then, didn't we have a plan? Shouldn't we stick to that? And, planning, organization, I think that's why I keep ending up being a band manager instead of just a singer, because no one else knows how to do social media, promotion, organizing gigs, all the things. And I will get a little bit obsessive with that, and I will get a little bit frustrated if it doesn't go my way. Okay, the last one. I scored right in the middle for neuroticism. And that when that comes up, it says, you can sometimes feel anxious or depressed. It depends on the situation. And yeah, well, I mean, I've had a lot of depression in my life, but I've also had a lot of okay times in my life. I don't get that anxious. I think I score high on anxiety tests, but that may be an artifact of the tests themselves, because maybe the way I'm interpreting the question doesn't quite sit, or I'm just a little bit high in anxiety, but anxiety doesn't affect me in the way that depression does. Like, depression I find so much harder to deal with than the anxiety that I experience. So hey, anyway, so I said, it sounds like a pretty fair assessment for me. While I do seem biologically prone to depression, I think I tend to recover more quickly when my situation changes. So if I've changed uni course or whatever, that sort of gives me the boost to get out of it, or I don't know, it doesn't really work like that anymore, but that used to work. When I changed my situation, I'd not be so depressed because I had something to look forward to, something to push through. I don't know. I think I tend to recover more quickly when my situation changes, but I'm unstable enough that if you put me back in a subjectively shit situation, there's a good chance I'll crash again. My biological systems just don't seem to work well with certain types of stress, even with all the psychological tricks I've learned through therapy over the years. Okay, so that ended up being an extra 10 minutes because tangents, I'm so bad, so let's run the end card again anyway, because why not? And I will see you whenever. I need a drink. I actually got my water here, because I was doing some singing practice, which might be why I feel like my voice is a little bit louder and slightly deeper than it usually is when I do YouTube videos, but I don't know. Anyway, I brought my water out in case I needed it while I was talking, but I kind of didn't. Yeah, I did clean. Did I show you how dirty the this thing got? I cleaned it out, but it's still got some staining, so, you know, really, the reusable straw thing I think is a bad idea. And disabled people need their disposable plastic straws. So stop banning it. Think about the people that you're affecting, especially seeing as plastic straws aren't as big an issue as you like to make it. We've got other plastic issues that are probably more pressing. But no, you chose the low-hanging fruit without thinking about whose lives you're affecting. So fuck you. And that was another tangent I didn't mean to go on, because things pop into my head and I just can't help myself, can I? Bye-bye, everyone. I'm going to go and do something else.